Hello, my name is Raymond Karczewski. This is coming to you from my home here in Cave Junction, Oregon. The subject tonight is taking back control of our country and our lives the peaceful way. As some of you may know, I am a retired police sergeant. I have dedicated my life to truth and justice. To many of you who hear this, you may find such statements coming from a 73-year-old man to be naive. Nothing could be further from the truth. After my retirement from the Pacifica Police Department, a suburb of San Francisco, California, I spent a semester in law school. It didn't take me long to discover the pit of vipers that I had just stepped into. My real education, however, into what passes for law today in America and how it is applied by the courts, came when, at the age of approaching 65, I was arrested for the first time in my life. What was I arrested for? Traveling in my own private automobile with my high-beam headlights on, and having no driver's license in possession, a license, by the way, which I had rescinded in 1999. And when I began to hold my public officials accountable for their criminal actions in the enforcement of their own bogus corporate legislative policies, which now masquerade as law here in America today. I remember vividly the night that I was arrested. It still resonates within me, the stories I've heard of the brutal and tyrannical policies of Nazi Germany and Mother Russia. I vowed then that they, a rogue government which has departed from our Constitution, would not get away with it. It has cost me dearly, especially with the stress they put on my wife, which greatly contributed to her death. I now understand that one cannot right wrongs with the system, especially when doing it with their rules. One must come to understand within themselves who they truly are. Are they of the sovereign people, the creators of a servant government, or are they slaves, 14th Amendment subjects to the corporation, and thereby consenting to the jurisdiction of their own collective creation of a fictional government and court system? Through generational mind control, Americans have been conditioned to believe those who hold the gold make the rules, and those who make the rules usually win the game. I, through my own life experiences and actions, am putting that premise to the test. My only weapon has been and is truth. Such truth is not transferable to satanically conditioned human beings, most of you out there who are listening to this talk. You have to listen, and you have to be quiet in order to penetrate the obstructive noise of your own conditioning. Until the American people, and the people of Oregon specifically, are able to see the insanity of my case, which is reflective of the common man, and that what happened to me and my family can happen to any of you, nothing will change. For any of you who are serious about returning to our rightful state of sovereignty, read my experiences of my political webpage at www.arkenterprises.com/index11.html. Forget the guns. Forget the violence that is growing in your mindset. Each and every one of you are living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural men and women, sovereigns, the true source of government, and are beyond the limited grasp of the fictional jurisdiction created by your elected, appointed, and hired politicians, bureaucrats, and cops, who are your servants. They owe their employment to you, not you to them. Find that strength within yourself, and join me in holding their feet to the fire until they realize where the true power lies. That scenario was played out here in Josephine County, Oregon, where as a result of the Oregon law enforcement, prosecutors, and courts' unlawful and fraudulent threats of 35 to 40 years in prison for the proposed crime of simulation of legal process, that of being a paper terrorist, and their 2 bogus trials which convicted the juristic person, the defendant, the government-created fictional character whose name is spelled in all capital letters. When it came time for sentencing, I simply rejected their offer of contract, their sentencing over this living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man, because throughout the 20-plus hearings and 2 trials, this living, breathing, flesh and blood man was subjected to. They, the courts, had refused to prove jurisdiction. That, and the fact that I had undergone 2 combined hunger strikes, protesting the tyrannical policies of the police and courts, amounting to 55 days, and was near death, according to the assessment of the Josephine County jail nurse. I was unceremoniously thrown out of jail and dumped off at the curb of the local hospital emergency room by the then undersheriff of Josephine County, Oregon, to fend for myself, to pay for medical expenses. That's what it took for me to prove my point, that their corporate rules did not trump true law, the law of God, and common law. As a result, 2 judges, a district attorney, and the former sheriff were forced into retirement at the peak of their careers because of their commercial dishonor. That leads me to the present criminal cover-up of a new wave of Josephine County public officials. Josephine County Sheriff Gil Gilbertson is currently holding office while conducting himself in commercial dishonor by my acceptance of his oath of office and his present default in not answering questions of jurisdiction and proof of claim, accompanied by my affidavit. Presently, by law, that means that Sheriff Gilbertson is unlawfully holding office and must be removed from public office, just as his predecessors were. There is an ongoing cover-up of this fact of law, now being conducted by Chief Financial Officer and Risk Manager Rosemary DeLashmont, whose oath of office was also accepted, challenged, and subsequently defaulted upon. Miss DeLashmont is also in commercial default and is now continuing to hold public office while in commercial dishonor. This is the key for taking back control of our servant, rogue government as sovereign people. However, if through fear or ignorance it is the will of the people of Josephine County, Oregon, to endorse such criminal behavior as felony conspiracy to cover up criminal acts of its public officials, than violent revolution such as which is unfolding in Greece, Egypt, and under other countries in our world, is not far off here in America. I have proven the power of any one man who has been arrested and forcibly and unlawfully brought before the fictional courts of our land by holding these public officials accountable by their refusal to answer the question, does a fictional court created by the sovereign people have jurisdiction over any living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man of the sovereign people who has not consented to their own prosecution via contract law? To all those who have listened deeply to what has been communicated in this talk, if you do not see the solution to your increasing loss of freedom in your life, then through such prideful ignorance you shall reap what you have sown. Thank you for listening.